So welcome to the Automated Buildings Free Education Sessions here at AHR Expo in Orlando. We're super happy to be here and share, we got a ton of program for you guys to share with you the next 3 days. Yes, 3 full days. So for those of you hardcores, we will be here on Wednesday presenting. So, but yeah, we're super excited. We got a great program for you today. We're going to kick it off with sort of an intro, we're going to preview most of what we're going to be talking about over the next 3 days and give you guys some insights from the editors and the board here at Automated Buildings. But of course, for those of you who are not familiar or fairly familiar with Automated Buildings, you all know that the man, the myth, the legend, Ken Sinclair is the guy, right? He's the guy who started it. I personally have, I've been reading the magazine since I started in the industry, which was back in the 90s. And it was always sort of that beacon of technology hope. So for those of you in the BAS industry, right, we're always hoping for more technology, better ways to use it, great ideas. And Automated Buildings magazine has given us that for a long time now. And of course, AHR has always seen the benefit in it and invited us to come and present to you all some of the stuff that we've uncovered in the magazine and hitting those trends and what's going on in the building automation universe. So super excited to be here, a lot to do, but of course to start, we're gonna start with Ken. He prepared a video, he can't be here, hard for him to travel, but let's hit play.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 3 days of deep learning, collaboration, and innovation here at AHR Expo Orlando. I'm Ken Sinclair, founder of Automated Buildings, and I'm pleased to kick off these sessions and welcome you. First, a heartfelt thank you for you, our industry. Building automation has never been more important. AI just thinks about it, but you actually do it with operational technology. The progress we have made is truly remarkable. A huge thank you to our speakers. Your expertise and willingness to share insight drive this industry forward. You are the real catalyst for change. Remember, only you can make rapid changes real. The world of building automation has always been about evolution, taking what we know, refining it, and pushing it towards a better future. 50 years in the industry has allowed me to become evolutionary. Evolutions have a way of turning into revolutions. I started in the pneumatic area in 1967 and entered into the direct digital control industry in 1975. It was a mystical world to the pneumatic folks of the day. Watching the industry grow with the importance of standards and how they could shape an industry. In 1999, we started Automated Buildings at the start of the internet, another revolutionary era. Quick evolution to the IoT of everything, which quickly transitioned into cloud, and now we are facing new revolutions in cloud-native artificial intelligence. Change is not new, but changes are here to stay. How we deal with change is our superpower. People propel our industry, not technology. But not embracing the latest technology is hazardous to your health. Today, we're talking about AI-driven everything, cloud-native approaches, and scalable, intelligent open systems. We are an edgy industry. Our impact in the AI revolution is empowering our edge. Our edge devices need high-speed connections, more computing power. Embracing new evolving standards like Linux provide us an environment that allows connection towards the cloud, but more importantly, enables the power to exist at the edge, close to the real-time data we are generating. As an industry, we need to bring AI to the edge. I'm unsure if you have a problem explaining AI, but I do. An AI product combines AI technology with software engineering, design, and business processes to deliver a practical solution that solves real-world problems. We need to consider data and people. We need to use AI as a tool to make this happen, but you need to understand more. But AI also needs to understand more about what it is we do. we need to train and control the language models. Our industry hardware suppliers, chillers, boilers, rooftops, are transitioning to become cloud companies using AI-driven cloud-native technology. They will rapidly evolve their deliverables and sell them as subscription services, such as comfort as a service, changing the whole financial model in the industry. It's early days, but change is in the air, or is that the clouds? The shift we are seeing now isn't just about new products. It's about a new way of thinking, new business models, and new skill sets that redefine how we operate. Over the next 3 days, you'll hear from some of the best minds in the industry on how to scale, secure, and simplify your approach to smart buildings. From AI to cloud adoption to cybersecurity and decarbonization, these discussions aren't just about where we are today, but where we need to be tomorrow. Take advantage of this time, ask questions, challenge ideas. Most important, take what you learn back to your teams, projects, and businesses. We've always been a community that builds a future, and today that future is here, more connected, intelligent, and essential than ever. I cannot believe how much I'm learning daily by creating and reading automated buildings. So let's get started. Welcome to AHR and Automated Buildings Education Sessions. Very sorry that I'm not there with you. Wow, 14 sessions over 3 days. Be sure to get everything you can from these sessions.
That was great. I got to get that funny look off his face, though. Josh, can you help me? What should I do? Next slide or go back? Go back, yeah. All right, there we go. Thank you, Ken. All right, so that was awesome. It's amazing how Ken's intellect has remained through all these years. He continues to catch the latest trends. He's able to articulate it in a way that I don't think anybody else can, with a creativity, but also just a passion for the industry and its direction and what's happening, and a tribute to him for sure. So super happy. He made the video. Sad he can't be here, but we'll do our best. We have his daughter who came with us from Australia. This is Carrie Sinclair, and Carrie and her sister Kelly have been taking the magazine over, and so you'll see Carrie here at these probably more, and so we do have a Sinclair. We just don't have Ken, but so we're excited to have Carrie here. And okay, so I'm Scott Cochran, by the way. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cochran Supply and Engineering, and we're a distributor of building automation systems and software. We sell some of the best systems on the market, some of the best software, and we sell it to some of the best integrators nationwide. And in Cochran Supply, we're a support mechanism for the contractors. So we really focus on supplying them the product, training them, and supporting them. And so we don't necessarily do the projects, but what we do is we do see what's going on in the projects, and we see it at a large scale because we work with many contractors. And with that, we're seeing some major trend shifts that are occurring, and it's not by design. Okay. For those of you who've been in the building automation industry for a long time, which I have, I'm sure many of you remember the transition from pneumatics to electric, or we'll say DDC at the time. And when we transitioned in that era, it wasn't just moving to microprocessors and computers as the basis for control. We moved all the devices over to electric. So your sensors, your actuators, all the little devices became electric too, and no longer were pressure driven. And so not only did we get new control systems, but we got new devices to go with it, right? And DDC was around it's been around for a long time now, right? Using sort of serial networks and things like that to communicate to controllers. And we still do that today, which was the origin of the DDC business. But somewhere along the line, we started connecting these buildings to the internet. And when we did that, we kind of changed the dynamic of what the system was, how the system would operate. If all of you remember in the early DDC days, we just basically ran the networks back to a single computer, put the computer in a boiler room, boom, there's your interface. And then we got web servers, and we were like, hey man, if I put this on your network, you all can see it on a web browser. Wouldn't that be cool? And they're like, yeah, of course. So what do? We started putting these web servers that control their heating and cooling. We put them on their networks, on their local area networks, their wide area networks. We were so bold that we even put software in their data centers, right? So we actually put the operating software for the HVAC system in their data centers, right? The end users' data centers. We still do this today. And then we piggyback on their business networks to communicate HVAC equipment for schedules, on-off control, all sorts of different things, right? So that's been going on for a while now, probably since the 2000s, last 20 years. We've been doing it. I hate to say it because we're at the AHR conference, but the typical specification today is still laid out like that, honestly. I mean, most of the ones we run into, it still calls for you to put these building systems right on the owner's networks, right? So that was fine. That was all good. We were having fun doing that. We were playing with the IT departments. We were starting to learn about IT. We were, starting to learn about networks. And but today, the landscape has changed dramatically. And funny enough, it kind of came together in a weird way. There are three kind of mega trends for BAS right now that have really put us on this new direction. The three trends, and you all know them, the first one is all the manufacturers of BAS equipment decided to start making them IP. So they made them Ethernet type devices instead of serial. So now before we were maybe putting one device on the owner's network. Now we're going to put 30, 40, 100 on the owner's network because all the environmental devices are IP based, right? So that was a big change. And they flipped these switches like a year ago. I don't know who saw it, but there were a couple manufacturers that had it, but then now everybody has it, right? And then so now all of a sudden, if a contractor wants to put a system in and really control their fate, they really have to put an IP network in of their own, a managed network that they install, that they wire, that they help the owner manage, right? Because if they don't, you can't really manage a network on somebody else's network. Okay, so this is a huge change for all of us in the business, right? We're just going through this right now, and then the next change that came was cybersecurity, okay? We're going to talk a lot about it, and we're going to talk about all these topics at the show. Don't worry, deep dive into all this. But cybersecurity, so what's going on is that, I just ran the stats. I think it's 85% of businesses in the United States had a cyber incident of some sort last year, 85%. Now, when they say that, what they mean is that network that you all put your BAS system on in the owner's place, that's what was under attack, was that network, okay? And depending on how you set that up, you may have been a vulnerability in allowing that hacker to get into that business network. And when they get into the business network, folks, the damages they do, it's extraordinary. And I'm not talking about physical, I'm talking about monetary damage. We're talking minimum 150,000, and depending on how bad it could be, you're talking millions and millions of dollars. Some companies have, incurred in costs because of a cyber attack. And do you want to be that system that let them in? And you don't think that they're starting to go after the people that show poor practices and don't protect the systems and just plug them into their network and get internet access from an IT department? You're still liable, even though they gave you access to the network because it was your equipment. So that's a big change for all of us, right? Hello, like, whoa, hey man, I'm just the heating and cooling guy. When did I become the breach of the dam, right? Like, so that's a big deal. And then on top of it, what is all the spending? What is all the buzz? It's AI, right? Everybody wants AI. They want it for everything, right? Funny story, I have a son graduating from college this year, He's a computer science major, and I don't think he took any of his classes, because every class he has, he just builds an AI bot. And it builds him his study guides, and it tells him what's going to be on the test, and it's like, do you even have to go to class? I mean, so AI is a remarkable tool. I mean, if you're not using it today, you should think about using it. It's useful for all of us today in some form or factor, and it's only going to get more usable. But when we look at AI and going back to the BAS systems, what does that mean to the BAS system? More data, faster intervals, right? So 15-minute interval data, that don't help AI. AI does, in 15 minutes, AI could invent a device to go to the moon and back, right? Like, come on. We got, so all of a sudden the new system designs, while they're the same design with the same bandwidth and the same protocols and all that stuff, all of a sudden they're asking for an enormous amount of data that we were never asked for before. And they're asking us to put it on a cloud, because that's where they can get the horsepower to run the AI. So it's like, hello. So anybody see what's happening? Like, our whole design for the BAS system has shifted, okay? The whole design. When you guys go to design a BAS job today, you have to consider all of this now. You have to consider putting in your own Ethernet network. You have to consider how you're going to cyber secure that system. And you have to understand the data requirements that the owner's asking for, because it's all changed. Like in the last 2 years. It's crazy, isn't it? How many out there are seeing this besides me? Anybody else? And it's coming. Like, I like to think of it like last year it was like a water drip. It was a dribble, drip, drip, drip. This year it's kind of like a nice garden hose. It's just kind of floating out there. You know what I mean? I guarantee in about another year it's going to be a fire hose, folks. It's going to be a fire hose, and it's really the cybersecurity side that's driving it, because not only did 85% have a cyber incident, 40% had a breach. 40% of businesses in the United States had a cyber breach last year of some sort, okay? And the liability of that on us as an industry is going to force us to change the design of the BAS system to protect it from that kind of calamity. And in doing so, I think there's opportunities, folks. When we went from pneumatic to DDC, that's really what unlocked the independent channel, frankly. Because once the independent channel started hiring IT, computer programmer, software type people, they became very capable organizations, just like the big companies were in the BAS world. The opportunity was there. Well, today in the BAS world, because this trend is so new, and because it's going to come at us I think like a tidal wave, those people who position themselves now to do the right thing in terms of understanding OT networks, understanding cybersecurity, understanding data at a high level, they're going to be the ones who succeed in the future. And it's a great time right now for the industry to reinvent itself, because with all this, I'll say hurdles for us, at the end of the story, we can have AI-driven buildings that can do things we never thought. We can bring occupant experiences like never before, because that's what the technology will actually allow us to do in the end. But to get there, we have some big hurdles as an industry, and it's going to be an interesting couple of years as we go through it. So that's my big picture perspective. I hope I didn't go too long. No. So, but I'm going to pass it over to Carrie now, and I'm going to let Carrie, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Yeah. What's that? Brad? Oh, I'm sorry. Is Brad next?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll give it to Carrie. Here you go, Carrie.
All right. Hi, everyone. I met some of you at Chicago last year, so welcome. Thanks very much to AHR for running these sessions and making this such a huge priority. As Scott's already alluded to, I'm Ken's eldest daughter. I have a sister, Kelly. And I guarantee you there's no nepotism here. Both my sister and I have had very experienced backgrounds in, I started my own startup, same time Dad started Automated Buildings, which was working for one of the first search engines in the internet at the time when we were trying to figure out how you would find anything on the internet. And so, while our backgrounds may not be as technically around building automation systems, we've been around software and cloud, and I've been part of digitizing agriculture and a few other areas that are running behind on digitization. So We really came on. I joined Automated Buildings 2 years ago on the editorial board with Brad and Scott. And really, it was about how do we allow Ken to continue to do what he's doing in a different form and reposition where we felt the magazine needed to go for the next 25 years. So this is our 26th AHR that we've run these sessions at. And so, if you look at where your industry is going, how do we continue to support these for another 25 years? And what are the skills of building a collaborative, a magazine? Because that effectively was what Dad started was, and with my mom, was really how do you take all of these disparate viewpoints and bring them into one place where you can actually get people that are willing to talk about the complexity, and it's not marketing and sales and people just trying to sell you stuff. It's actually people going, yeah, if you're going to go this way, it's going to be a bit tricky. Maybe you wait, or and no one really. I think a lot of us are looking for that trusted voice, and that's not just one person that pays money to get your attention. It's actually a group of people that have been involved with Dad for a very long time, and also new people. So I was at the Smarter Summit yesterday, where C4SB announced its new relationship with the Linux Foundation as an example, really showing again, when you're starting to see people that we didn't, even though I think Dad sent me that we first started talking about Linux on automated buildings in 2008. I think we talked in 2019, we had a Raspberry Pi controller that we were using in a building, which is running on Linux. So Linux has been, being used in the industry, but now is actually coming to the forefront of how we're going to have to continue to manage these things. So, really the future for us is, I guess, really continuing to build and invite more people to the Automated Buildings webpage and our media channels. Most of our media does go out through LinkedIn. The Automated Buildings website is a really good repository of everything. These sessions will all be there after, so you can rewatch them. There'll be a lot of conversations on the sites, but what we're really trying to do, I think now, is continue to invite people that should be part of this conversation instead of excluding them and only having a smaller conversation, because we really believe that the complexity that we're going to have to deal with over the next 5-10 years particularly is going to be bumpy, and there's probably going to be some things that we're going to have to make decisions as, and very much believe in the more smart people around the room that can actually help contribute to this and allow everybody else to learn from their backgrounds will obviously help us as an industry be better. So I have lots of, I'm actually facilitating a couple of sessions later, so I have obviously a lot of other opinions that I'm going to add, but I might hand over to Brad, and then we can maybe ask any questions or open up to the room in a moment.
Thanks, Carrie. So I'm Brad White, president of SES Consulting. We're a consulting firm up in Vancouver. The S in SES was originally Sinclair, so we're actually... our company is sort of the continuation of Ken's consulting business, which was what he did before AutomatedBuildings.com. So that's my connection to all of this. But we're kind of interesting as a consultancy because our focus, probably for the first 10 years that I did this, was almost entirely controls, energy efficiency, that kind of thing. And then we started getting into more projects where we would come into a building and there would be this great fancy heat pump system, heat recovery chillers and heat pumps, and none of it would work. And so, so we'll recommission it, and then in the process we'll realize, well, actually the mechanical engineer didn't really understand these systems. So that's how we got into mechanical engineering as well. So now as a consulting firm, we started with the controls, and then only afterwards started to do the mechanical piece. And that's worked really well because I think what we've learned is, especially as the mechanical systems in our buildings become more and more complicated, like controls is it. Like if you don't get the controls right, none of it works. So all this talk about sustainable buildings and net zero buildings and zero carbon buildings, like none of that happens without the controls piece. So what we do here, I think, is really essential to everything that's going on in the industry. And so we've got a couple of good sessions coming up later. We're going to go deep on heat pumps and how to make them work and how controls contributes to energy efficiency, whether you're just trying to save a few bucks off of your energy bill or you're trying to go all the way to like net zero. It all starts with controls. But like all of you, like I'm also feeling overwhelmed by like how much change is going on in the industry right now. I am embarrassed to admit I don't find that much time to read automated buildings that much anymore. And when I do, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here that I don't have time to deal with or even think about because I'm trying to get this tender package out or I'm trying to finish this report. But you know what? I've had some people in our company and they keep coming to me and they're like, hey, can we have some time to go play with this AI tool? I think we can do something with ChatGPT. I was like, okay. I said no 5 times because we're too busy. Fine. You can, have 50 hours, go figure something out. And then they come back and they show me that they've essentially replicated the workflow that we would have had a junior engineer doing and taking 40 hours, and they can do it in an hour or less now with ChatGPT. I'm like, wow, okay. I should have given you this time to go play with this a lot earlier than I did. And that's what I'm realizing about a lot of this innovation stuff that we're talking about is like, it's an investment. And if you don't take time to make the investment, you can miss the boat. And so I think that's what we're here to talk about the next 3 days as, we've got 12 sessions, 14 sessions, and they're all good ideas of things that can help your business. And I think, yes, they're big ideas, but I think we've been really careful too to kind of always make sure that there's like some really practical takeaways from every session. So hopefully when you come to them, you'll actually leave being like, yeah, I can actually use that. Like, I'll show you some of the prompts that we use for ChatGPT to like start to write controls code and solve new interesting problems that again, we could solve without it, but I can do it a lot faster with the AI tools. And then the other thing I'm realizing is that like that gets our staff really excited because we all have a talent problem. We all have problems finding good people and keeping good people. And what I'm finding is that the good people want to play with the cool new shit. And if we let them do that, they're happier, they're more productive, they're more profitable, and they stay longer. And they do good work, and because they're doing good work, our clients are happy, and our clients keep coming back to us. So it's all connected. So I think, as much as I want to ignore innovation because I don't have time, I realize that every time we do embrace it, like it only does good things for our business, and it only makes us better at what we do, and that's what we want to share with all you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Brad. So I know many of you who are speaking in our sessions are in the room right now. Can you raise your hands if any of you are here that are speaking? No, just Stephanie? Well, can you come up, Stephanie, real quick, introduce yourself, and give them a little preview of what you're going to be speaking about?
Sure, yeah. I'm doing a couple sessions. So the first one is today at 4. It's called Healthy Buildings. And what we're going to talk about is what I'm seeing in the industry is there's this real disconnect between like operators and what they want to do and people and what they want and the sustainability department. And there's this real tension because historically what's happened is sustainable buildings have been uncomfortable because we all like do these aggressive setbacks and it's like, oh, I'm cold in this room. Okay, well, put on a blanket because energy. And so we really want to like bring these pieces together and talk about how it can all be really cohesive and how there's more to buildings than just the energy, right? If you think about, and I'll talk about this in detail, but the amount of money that you spend on your people is, 100 times the amount of time that you're going to spend amount of money you're going to spend on energy. And we so overlook that. We overlook that productivity piece because it's really hard to quantify, but it is, on average, 100 times more than that energy. So we want to talk about like the whole thing and how the controls and integrating it all can really make it better, healthier, more comfortable, and more energy efficient. So that's today's session. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about decarbonization and the new business case, because I mean, we work with gas companies, we work with electrical companies, we work with consultants who care about decarbonizing from the environmental standpoint, and we work with clients who like really honestly don't care and are looking to save money. And so what I want to talk about is how all of those things are actually connected and there isn't really this tension between them. If you have a decarbonized building, there are so many more opportunities. And I think people get stuck on that word like decarbonization and electrification. They're like, well, I don't want a net zero building. I'm somewhere where the grid is not clean. It doesn't make sense for me. And it's like, that's fine. We're not asking you to go all the way. Maybe you go 10%, 25%, maybe you're going 50%, but they're all like the strategies that we use. Energy efficiency really is the same as decarb. Whether it's, new gas equipment, sure, that's efficient, but most of it is controls. Like Brad said, we see this all the time. I have clients that are like, I have this $1 million heat pump and it's never worked. And it's like, why? Well, because they spent $1 million on a heat pump and they got to commissioning and they were like, oh, I don't want to spend that extra money. That's like a lot of work and I don't have any time. And so they're skimping on these pieces because we aren't making the case for them that this is where the money and the savings actually lie, is in that commissioning. And so we're seeing a lot of clients starting to get really unhappy with like low carbon alternatives and kind of pushing that envelope. So all the clients that are like, I was, on the leading edge and I now hate heat pumps and I hate domestic hot water, solar heating, because it doesn't work. But it's because the controls were not given enough focus. So we're really going to talk about that, because you as controls contractors, if you are the one who can like make it work and make the case and then deliver a product that's actually performing, first of all, you're going to be like 1 in 50. Clients are going to come back to you and they're going to start believing in this stuff. So whether you're decarbonizing all the way, going to net zero, or literally just like turning off the lights, it all is that controls piece. And what we're seeing is that a lot of people are like, oh, well, energy efficiency, like I've already done that. And it's like, have you though? If you look at it, it's not maintaining the savings. It's being forgotten about. It's not done. We have not figured that out yet. So it's all connected. So that's what we're going to talk about there. And then on Wednesday, Scott and I are talking about like building automation essentials, just like, how to use trends and how to use data. And it's more of a like basics learning.
We're going to teach you how to do an energy audit in a building in 5 minutes.
Yeah. So if you're kind of newer to the industry, I always tell clients, like, I don't need a study to tell you what to do. Like, I can look at your systems and I'm going to be like, that's what you should do. And so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that. And those are my sessions. There you go.
Thank you. Question?
No, well, I want to speak after, to build on what you just said. You're running the show.
Feel free. Go ahead if you'd like to add something.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'm David Katz. I've been doing things with Ken for over 30 years. I'm an ambassador for the Automated Building, Continental Automated Building Association. Many of you are carrying their products. And I want to talk to you about how we're educating people. I teach this in the schools, in colleges. And so we have to teach the next generation these things. Many of them are smart on their smartphones. So the same way we did it with green buildings, we went through LEED and green globes. Then we went through WELL and FitWell. Now we're going to SPIRE and the Building Intelligence Quotient, which is, again, an educational tool online, how you can figure out what is in your building, how smart is it, why would you have these things. So we've developed a program. It used to be supported by Automated Building Association, by CAVA, and BIQ is on. Telecommunication people have SPIRE. Bloomberg has SmartScore. So whatever way you use, educate yourself on what was just spoken about. We have major incentives in Canada as it relates to Vancouver or even your own, in time of use rates and all these things. They're not going away. But if we put solar on the roof but we leave the lights on underneath, as you just said, we're wasting energy. So if there's an opportunity, connect with me on Building-IQ, and we'll work on educating the population on that.
Great. Thank you for that. Thank you. So yeah, we certainly are. We're not going to miss energy on this, and the business of BAS is built around energy. Don't kid yourselves. I mean, we can splash all the technology we want and all the big data stuff we do, but at the end of the day, the dollars and cents come from the utilities, and that's what matters to the bottom line to our customers. And we should always be focused on that as an industry. So that's not a new trend. That's a continued trend that we're going to make sure we keep the spotlight on for all of you. And I always think energy is the right way to really, if you build your foundation around sound energy management when it goes to BAS. My dad was in the industry before me. I'm actually second generation. And when I came into the industry, my dad and all the guys that were around in the 60s and stuff, they always told me, because this is how they did pneumatics back then. They said, we knew it was efficient when it was comfortable. So believe it or not, in my years, I've learned the most comfortable buildings are also the most efficient. And always remember, efficiency is not necessarily less energy. It's using the right amount of energy for the right application. That's efficiency. And that's again, a big focus. And Stephanie and I are going to dive into that for you folks and give you guys all sorts of good info. So we are also running sessions. We have numerous sessions on AI. Can you get it up? Oh, okay. So I'll kind of give you guys a preview. So sell some sessions to you real quick. That's okay. But is it working? Okay, cool. So this one's right after this, and okay, perfect. All right, thank you. So Carrie's going to lead this one. And Carrie has a vast, she's been in all sorts of different businesses. And it's fascinating when she brings all that into our industry. And I'm really excited about this next one coming up. I did see Lenny late. Is Lenny here? Because he was out late last night, so he better be here. That's all I know. But this is following this session. And then this one, Brad, this is Brad's baby, the giant heat pumps. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the trend in electrification, it's going on more so in Canada than the US, but the thought of moving everything over to electric. And of course, with that, we're moving these giant chilled water, hot water applications over into heat pumps and other types of things. And with the scale of that now, how do you control it, right? What's the do's and don'ts? What are the pitfalls? And we have we got a guy from Train, York. We have one of the gentlemen who applies it every day in his business, and of course, Brad's a designer. So this will be a fantastic session. Okay, and then of course we get into cybersecurity, and this one, this is at 2:30 today. All these are in this room, by the way. So the cybersecurity session is really cool. It's not about scaring you about cybersecurity. This is really about what's going on in the BAS industry today, what's available to you today, and then what are some of the trends that you might want to think about jumping on top of in terms of this. So for those of you who don't know Jim Lee from Symmetrics, he's a fascinating man. He's like I always call him like the Dom of BACnet, like he's that guy, and he's going to talk about some cool stuff. And Mike and Aaron are great speakers, and Greg does a pretty good job. I don't see him in the room. All right, and then Stephanie or Lauren Scott from Acuity and Stephanie, and we have an awesome panel for this: healthy buildings beyond four walls. So this gets into not just efficiency, but like the aesthetics, the actual environment you're in, and what does that mean in terms of the industry and how it's affecting things. So fascinating panel, and that will wrap up day one. We'll be back here tomorrow morning where we're going to do Stephanie's decarbonization panel. Again, Lauren Scott. Lauren Scott is she both runs marketing for Acuity, but she's also their what kind of officer internally? The energy efficiency. Like she's in charge of their energy initiatives for Acuity, so she brings a broad perspective. Bill Schwebel, he's kind of like in charge of like the products for Johnson Controls and what their direction is in the BAS world. And then Abby Massey, she's a accountant who specializes in helping people find, basically do the accounting to qualify for federal energy grant savings. And she's going to talk about that, which I'm really curious what's happening in her world with the new administration coming in. I haven't heard anything on the news, but as most of you know, there's a huge amount of funding that we're still applying on projects today from the last round of federal funding, but it'll be interesting to hear her perspective on that.
She's going to tell us what to expect with the new administration and what it looked like last year. And
Got
what
it.
the incentives are going to look like.
Cool,
So
cool.
she's got an in.
Yes, that's big, because that's real news here, folks. That's going on as we speak, so. And then we're going to start jumping into one of our AI conversations, which is, can autonomous buildings become a reality? We're going to dive into it, the concept of it, and then we have a bunch of speakers here trying to achieve it. So you all can test them, ask them what you think of what they're trying to do, and get an idea of can an autonomous building be a reality? I don't know. It's a good question. There's a lot of different definitions around it right now, but this will be a fascinating conversation tomorrow at 10:30. And then we're going to get into the smart building design. Brad's going to run the panel, and we're going to dive into, this is really around for those who design BAS systems, the architecture, the controls you put in, the cybersecurity requirements, the data requirements. These gentlemen are all engaged in that every day, and they're going to dive into the details of what they're changing in the designs to help facilitate all of the need for both data and cybersecurity and OT networks and the whole thing. Great session. And then scaling your business with cloud. Again, Carrie's going to come back and run this panel. We're really going to dive deep into kind of like the BAS side of this and how different companies are approaching it, both from a product and from an application perspective. So it'll be another great session. And then we're closing out Thursday, 4 o'clock. Or I'm sorry, Tuesday, 4 o'clock. We're doing this is the Controller Showdown. Controller Showdown 2. This is the second one. So what this is we've worked with a group of manufacturers that are willing to participate. Each one will get 7 minutes to pitch their best controller to you, the audience. And at the end of the presentations, you all will vote. We'll put a QR code up on the screen, and you all will vote in the winner. So there will be a winner of this showdown. There will be one winner. The last one we had a winner. We do have a trophy for the winner. We'll give it to him that night. And these gentlemen, it's fun. Like the first one we did, these guys were all sweating when they were going because they were just worked up, and it was neat. But we're super excited. It'll be fun because they're going to show you the latest and greatest in their products and see what you all think about it in the vote. Yes. Well, I don't know if it's he'll tell you he won when he presents. So it was the Honeywell guy. I believe he pitched the Cyper. Was it the Cyper? I think it was the Cyper. The Honeywell guy, Steve Hoffman. He might vote for himself on all his slides. I've heard that. I haven't seen him yet, but he might be a little, and they might come up to you on the side and try to be nice to you to get your vote, okay? They know they're politicians too, so they're going to work it hard. But we hope to. I'm excited. This is one of my favorites. So, and then of course Cochrane Supply. We brought Gus and William, for our Texas team, up from Texas just for this event because they did such a great job hosting the first one. So we'll have our Texas team host it. All right, and then Wednesday morning, we decided for Wednesday because most people are, we don't expect huge groups, but those who are still here, we're going to focus really on education. Okay, we're not bringing in vendors, we're not talking products, we're not talking, trends too much. We're really diving in to what this gentleman mentioned, like the topics and the raw training of those. So, of course, who's the best trainer in the industry right now? No question, Phil Zito. He's fantastic. So we're super proud to bring him in, and he's going to give you a little peek into some of his insight, but give you some nice training to go along with it. Phil's with Smart Buildings Academy, if you haven't heard of them. They're an online training resource for the HVAC industry. They do a fantastic job. And then Brad and Jacob Fenley from Cochrane, they're going to teach you guys real-life examples of how to use AI. So this is not just for business, but for your personal life as well. ChatGPT type stuff that they're currently doing. And people within their company are doing to do their jobs. So we're gonna teach you guys how to, and Jacob will actually teach you guys how to use it if you've never used it before. Give you some real world examples and hopefully get you going on it. So that is Wednesday at 10:30. And then Therese Sullivan from Tritium and I, we are going to talk about data and architectural strategies, the basics of those for BAS. Tritium, of course, is a mainstay in the industry. A lot of the designs currently have them in it. And we're going to discuss the different designs and why people do it. And it's all going to be it's not the new stuff. It's sort of the current stuff that we're doing today. And then the graveyard shift. Stephanie and I will be doing a energy management for you energy people. And this is a 101 class. So we're going to teach the basics of energy management as it relates to BAS, teach you how to do a building audit, try and teach you how to do some payback stuff with, kind of teach you what a kilowatt hour is and how to create figure out how much that motor's using and then how long will it take to pay it back if I put a VFD on it, that kind of stuff. It'll be neat. So if any of you are interested, or if you have people that are new to the industry, this is really geared for them as well. So that's it. So there's our 3 days. All right. So that's the plan. So before we break loose here, would anybody else like to say anything to kick the sessions off this week? I know we got one comment. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked your comment about. Sorry. Maybe I'll use the mic. Sure. I liked your comment about the fire hose. Actually, that's a really good description of what's happening in the industry. But to add another fire hose to this, you're going to have two, and eventually we're going to go to a water main. But the building information modeling world and the digital twin world, which we presented yesterday, that Carrie touched on. That's going to increase complexity exponentially, which means that for us, and actually this is a question, for us as an industry to be able to achieve that complexity level and solve it, we need to look at open source. And that's not only a technical discussion, it's also a business decision that we all have to make because obviously we all have to compete. But unless we open source our connections dramatically, we can't solve everything, and that's really the only way to achieve this, I think. And I don't know what you think or what the industry thinks about that. It's more of a business question rather than technical.
Yeah, the concept that he's mentioning is to start to open source technologies within the industry to get mass acceptance and rapid development of those technologies, it's great and it's a great idea. But we've just always had a hard time with the big companies going along with it, frankly, and they just run the darn show. So it's, until we show, like I say, any great new technology, there are two things you got to ask yourself. Does it lower the cost of doing the job, and does it increase the value of what I've just done? So if you're not lowering the cost or increasing the value, then we're not helping the situation, because that's all anybody cares about, right, when we try to sell something to them. So like any new technology, I think it's a good litmus test. And frankly, like that open source concept is, but we've talked about it for years. I can tell you how different companies have shut it down through lawsuits, like large companies in our industry. I can't tell you here, but if you ask me after, I'll tell you the stories because I know what happened. We actually had inventory pulled off our shelf one time because we had drivers on the device that the company got sued, and they were like, you got to go back to the project and pull it off. And I'm like, oh no, that ain't happening. But anyways, but open source, folks, is we're kind of in an open source era right now with BAS, because the back end of all this stuff is, a lot of it's Java coded and things like that. So there are a lot of companies that have developers on staff, and with the technology we're using, we are able to develop new paths with it. It's not full open source, but the source code's there, and with the right mentality, you can use it in different ways. But again, open source, hopefully it'll come, and because if we can get more open source technology in the industry, the development of it will be so much more rapid than the way we are today. The manufacturers in the industry are really slow with that kind of stuff. So open source would just kind of hyper scale it, if you may. So anyways, please.
Just to add to that, I'm glad you brought up digital twin. And I know with our clients especially too, there's a lot of intimidation by both the concepts of BIM and digital twin. A lot of the owners we work with find that very intimidating. But one thing we've been doing is you can do elements of that very simply. Like the concepts that sort of underlie BIM and digital twins, we can do elements of digital twin in a spreadsheet. No, it's not the same as a big fancy software package, but I think it's a great way to get people introduced to the concept, and most importantly, the benefits, because we can do it really fast and really cheaply, and then they see it and oh, that's cool. We should start to think about investing more in this. And I think when it comes to getting to open source, I kind of see it as a bit of a chicken and egg problem. I mean, I don't know that you can create the open source before there's a demand for. So I think one thing we need to do is just kind of increase demand for those services. And I think one of the ways we do that is we make it more accessible, and we sort of bring it down to a level that owners can understand. And the other thing, and I talked about a bit of how we're kind of a weird design firm in that we started with the controls. Well, one of the things we're doing now is we use BAS data to design. So we'll take virtual meter day, we'll take supply and return water temperature sensors, and we'll go look up flow rates and balancing reports or have a flow meter, and then use that data to design our heat pump systems, because now we know what the building's actually doing. And so we feed that same data into our, and largely we're still using spreadsheets, but we'll feed that data from building automation system into our spreadsheet models, and then we've got a much better idea of how to design that system for how the building actually works, and forget about what the energy models say, forget about what, when the building was designed, it probably had different use cases, it had different occupancy loads. So I think, in my opinion, all that's out the window. So we go right to the data. And so that's, in our mind, a whole new use case for building automation. I always kind of think about 3 use cases for building automation. One is, keeping people comfortable. 2, saving energy. Well, now I think we're adding a third, which is supporting design. And so that's, I don't know, I'm pretty excited about how we're using that data. And so I think, I think some of these concepts as an industry, we can do a lot of work to make them more accessible. So, owners aren't seeing them as these huge investments that are this whole new thing they got to wrap their head around. But no, it's actually really quite simple, and let's show you, and you can see why this is useful to you.
Yeah, that's a fascinating angle about supporting design through the BAS with the amount of data we're getting and how we're able to send it and up to the cloud and the tools now you have at your disposal. So, and digital twins too are a cybersecurity method. By you put one software platform in the building to do the control and on-prem, if you may, and then you create a digital twin of it up on a cloud, and that's what you give all the owners access to their information on, is a digital twin, and that way you're not exposing the core application that's on the building's network, right? So you're going to see all sorts of uses, I think, of the digital twin in the future. So fun stuff. So great concept. Thanks for the comments, and I think we'll wrap it up here, right? Is it that time? Okay. So we'll wrap it up here, and
Really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.